Welcome back to another episode of the Blitz Break. I'm your host, Phil Rasmussen, back here on another Friday. Thanks for joining us here on YouTube and all of our other platforms. As always, joined by my partner in crime and the resident Texan who has avoided letting me make fun of his shoes this morning by changing them. And I'm actually both pleased and slightly off balance because I can't make fun of you for him, but good to have you back, my friend. I like the black polo.
Thank you. I was remiss this morning. I pulled these out of the closet, and I should have, tried to buff out the toes to be perfectly white and really throw you off your game today.
I would not. I might be incapable of speaking.
But this is all the time I had left, for the morning. Taking care of Tammy, getting her. We're gonna
have to get into that.
My girl had her knee replacement done within the last week or so, and I've been taking care of her, and I think she's taking advantage of me. I think I'm almost positive of it, but I can't tell, because I thumped the knee and she still screams. So, I'm sure it is painful. But anyway,
this is true.
This is all I had time to do was to drag these out, between, helping her this morning and getting here to work. So
I kind of thought so.
Glad to be here with these shoes on.
That's right. Well, and you're in a different location for me today.
Yes, over here to your
Julie.
right.
Not only am I excited to have you back, you actually blended really well with your black attire on the chair and everything, but our resident everything networking, social media, mortgage, real estate, title, you name it. And I'm still waiting on the day that we run into someone that you don't already know, which actually will be.
Well, she was out late last night at an event.
Was it that Masters celebration? The new president. So it was great down at the rail yard, the Sacramento rail yard.
At the rail yard.
A really incredible event. They did a beautiful job.
Where did they do it at the rail yard? Did it just in one of the big buildings?
Yeah. And it's beautiful. They do a really nice job. It was nice, open, high ceilings, and then the trains are to the left. So it's really pretty. Yeah.
Should have gone down there.
You should have. It was
super
great.
Grateful that you made time to come and spend the morning with us after that. I'm sure you partied hard late into the evening.
I'll get there.
And today's guest, very excited to welcome a 50-year mortgage veteran, self-proclaimed 30 years with Integrity Mortgage, author, baseball enthusiast, umpire, which we're definitely going to have to talk about that. Mike Miklaus, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Every pitch is a strike until it's proven wrong. I'm a pitcher's friend.
I never threw a ball in my life, so I would agree. If it was a ball, it was intended to make you swing for a strike anyway. So I like that. I got to ask just right out of the gate, if you had to pick mortgage or umpiring baseball, and you could unwind it and go back and say, "This is my career, and this is what's going to pay the bills," would you have chosen umpiring and dealt with all those fans in the major leagues, or doing mortgages?
Well, I had a taste of I had a cup of coffee in professional baseball. I actually worked 6 Rivercats games in 2013. Mm-hmm. So that's the highest level that I've done, and it was very enjoyable. But the truth is, I only umpired because when my kids started Little League, the dads all wanted to be a coach or a manager so their kid could be an all-star, but none of the dads wanted to umpire so we could have a game instead of a scrimmage. So I started doing umpiring. That led to everybody saying how horrible I was. And if I had it to do all over again and I wanted to humble myself, I'd go work a Fair Oaks Little League game because I'm sure they'd still tell me that I'm horrible, notwithstanding the fact that I progressed into high school baseball, did training, was a trainer for high school baseball, went into college, became a trainer with the black and blue college baseball camps. Basically, everything I do, I try to be the best version of myself. And so if I'm fixing dinner with my wife, I want to be the best possible cook I can be, and I enjoy cooking, and so does she, and so we enjoy that together. If I'm engaged in wines, I want to be knowledgeable about them. And then, to answer your question directly, no, I'd be a mortgage professional, and I'd be a mortgage advisor because, to me, one of the fundamental needs people have is housing. And I want to be a difference maker to help the single mom, the veteran. Sometimes I get borrowers that it takes a long time to get them into the home because instead of giving them a pre-approval, I have to give them a plan. But I tell every borrower that is willing to not give up on themselves that if you don't give up on yourself, I won't give up on you. I will walk alongside you, and we will work the plan and put you in a position to buy a home. And it's personal for me.
I am inspired by hearing you describe it that way, and I think it's actually really the reason why so much of the conversation today around the evolution in the industry and the commoditization of the mortgage loan process, it's not that it's overblown, because the efficiency, the speed, the service, all the things that are advantageous definitely are of value. But what you just said is why a human being who is accountable and responsible and cares about helping someone get to the point where they achieve their goals, I don't care how far AI goes or technology goes. That's what really makes the difference, is someone like yourself taking that care for people.
Well, it would be fun to delve into the technology aspect of it and that, but if you go back, when Buzz started, when I started,
you guys, I think. So here's the thing.
That was coming.
He carried over the first thing on the Wells Fargo Express. Were you right next to him? Were the two of you guys?
He was the shotgun.
I was right. Absolutely.
Damn it! I knew that I was going to get thrown in here.
Yeah. But, and contrary to popular opinion, we had pencils. It was not a cuneiform tablet.
Right, right.
But
you didn't chip away at it?
It was a while ago. But, the thing is, I answered an ad this big coming out of UCLA to promote thrift and home ownership. And I became intrigued with this. And, by the way, I was flunking out of UCLA after 2 quarters. But
you had a great time.
And I did. I discovered blondes in the dorms, and it was just wonderful. Yeah.
Sounds like you're pretty smart. Sounds like you're pretty smart, actually.
Best education you ever got.
But the way I got to UCLA was that I was on the college debate team at Orange Coast College, and I was the first junior college debate team. My partner Bill Landers, who's passed away, and myself were the first team at a junior college to ever be ranked in the top 10 in the country. Wow. We got invited to the national tournament. We beat Harvard in the quarters, and that led to a scholarship to UCLA, where I promptly moved into a dorm, discovered dorm life, and flunked out 2 quarters later. But that ad that I answered this
from riches to rags, it's a story.
Yeah, but then that ad to promote thrift and home ownership caught my interest, and so I went to work for a savings and loan in the San Fernando Valley, and I took every banking class I could take. So I was driving from Costa Mesa in Orange County all the way up to 4th and Spring Street in LA to take banking classes 4 nights a week, so I could so I could absorb all this information and learn it. I quoted my first FHA loan in '74, and I became a branch manager of a savings and loan in '74. And it was in 1976 when I came to Sacramento, because San Diego Federal Savings and Loan on 7th and O Streets, the old Heilbronn Mansion, brought me to Sacramento at 25 years old as a regional vice president and chief operating officer.
Wow.
And then I look at Buzzy, and his title with Big Valley is a senior vice president, and I'm thinking he's the first senior vice president I ever met with silver hair, because usually you meet the senior vice president and they're like I was in my 20s, still popping pimples and hoping I look mature.
Well, I remember. I was trying to remember where we had originally met. And I guess it was just at one of the SAR meetings. I just can't pin it down where, but I can see you when we met. You had actual dark hair at that time.
Yeah,
so did I.
I did. Yeah. And I went from San Diego Federal to Capital Federal Savings and Loan.
Okay.
And we took Cap Fed from 9 offices to 35, from 350 million assets to 800 million. I had 350 employees. And in my 30s, I issued the first multiple thrift collateralized mortgage obligation. We raised $100 million by taking underwater mortgages of the thrift that were at 4% and 5% and borrowing against them so we could lend out money at 8%. And those events led to taking CapFed public, and then San Francisco Federal bought them, Chase bought them. In our lifetime, my adult lifetime, from answering that ad when there were 110,000 banks in this country, we're down to 4,300. So the development of the mortgage product has changed and shifted. So I shifted with it. I went into mortgage banking in the 90s. I was a manager for Norwest Mortgage, and they got Wells Fargo. Then I went to Crossland Mortgage. They got Wells Fargo. So I went to a men's Christian conference in 1996, and on my way home, I had an epiphany and a prayer with God, and I started Integrity Mortgage. And I celebrate 30 years of having owned and operated Integrity Mortgage now, and it's been a joy, and I'm closing that chapter.
Yeah, that is
You're closing the chapter.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah.
I was not aware of this. What now?
Yeah, we're going to have to elaborate. We got to get into that now.
In November, I went back and I did a podcast for this little mortgage company called United Wholesale Mortgage. And while I was there, at the same time, I got an invitation to go over and meet a gentleman that I've talked to in the industry by phone several times, and at Success Mortgage Partners. And Success Mortgage Partners was started by Kevin Broughton and Vince Lee. And Vince, by the way, is now 91 and still goes in the office 4 days a week.
Wow.
He's my hero. I want to be like him when I grow up. But his son, Owen, is the incoming president of the Mortgage Bankers Association. And he's in Washington right now advocating on behalf of our industry. Well, one of the things that I realized in the last 6 months is that there's been this artificial fight between mortgage brokers and mortgage bankers. And you guys perceive the mortgage broker as the bad guy because they're splitting off and being independent, doing their own thing. And then the mortgage brokers are all saying, well, mortgage banking's bad because the margins are different and we don't get the support and this and that. None of it's true.
Couldn't agree more.
The real competition is between the local mortgage advisor, whether they're a banker or a broker, whether they're Big Valley or now Mike Miklaus, Team Integrity, powered by Success Mortgage Partners, because we're shifting. I signed the papers 2 weeks ago, and I'm merging into Success Mortgage Partners. They have no presence on the West Coast, and I'm going to help them to build a region in Northern California. And so I'm getting rid of the regulatory, filling out the broker packages, the admin, the human resources, all the stuff that is on the backside that not one of us sitting here has fun with. And that's going to free me up to have more time to retain and recruit loan officers and teach them the right way to advise clients and to be a value, because we are not a commodity. What we deliver is a commodity in the sense that it's money, but it's even the process of a mortgage has been totally confused for the public. They all think they should ask what the interest rate is.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what the rate is. Let's convert it to dollars. You've never taken a percentage sign to the market to buy groceries. So let's convert it to dollars. Let's have real conversations about dollars. Let's talk about your family's budget, what your needs are. Let's make the payment affordable so you can still take your kids to dinner at a drive-up window of your choice.
Sure.
Right? Yep. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Well, and that's a trust-based conversation that, first off, you just dropped a ton of knowledge that is needs to be absorbed by the vast majority of the lending industry, right? This battle between the broker and the bank and the mortgage bank, way overblown. You get these extreme perspectives painted on both sides, and the word that we use all the time here is value. Like,
yes,
nobody can do it alone, right? We all need support. We all have skill sets, strengths, weaknesses, things that we have tendencies and that we like to do, and things that just make our skin crawl when we have to deal with them. And you need to be in a position where you put the right people around you to support scale and deliver the best value to the customer. the message that you hear so often on the broker side is all about, the comp and the margin and how much you can make, but they don't talk about the limitations that come with the lack of scale and the lack of support, and that, you have to do things that you're not good at because you don't have someone to help you.
Precisely.
And then on the mortgage banking side, that developed because there was a lot of inappropriately spread costs, or ineffective, maybe it's a better word, spread costs, where I'm not seeing a return on what you're spending money that's affecting whether my rate, my compensation. And so people grew disenchanted with it because they're feeling like they're at a disadvantage, but they're not seeing a return. And so really neither side is right in the total point, that they stand on. It's the middle of, you got to have a good team that delivers value for where you spend your resources, and that's the success point. The thing that bothers me when I hear it, and you just touched on it, is serving the client and building a relationship. If you're trying to be in this business for the long haul, the more of them that you have, the better off you are. It's not about how much you make per client. It's 100%. About how much you do to grow the client base you have. And that doesn't get talked about in a lot of these conversations.
And they have to have a relational base, because you don't just, I hear people refer to it as a database. No, that's not a database. That's your relationship book.
Yes.
And in order for it to be a relationship book, it has to be relational. You actually have to have communication with them. There's
something other than just, hey, here's your interest rate.
and think about this, as I know you appreciate this fact as well. Our industry said we're going to get rid of trigger leads because trigger leads are the problem. Well, a lot of people are celebrating now that the trigger leads are gone. For the people that may not be familiar with that on this podcast, that's where the credit bureaus sell your information when a loan officer pulls credit. Well, now we're down to the servicer can contact them, their bank can contact them, the originating company that the loan was funded through can contact them, and the loan officer can contact them. Loan officers who aren't relational should be frightened to death.
Absolutely.
Because now, instead of 50 people, when a credit pull happens, calling and confusing your client to where they run to you for clarity, if you aren't relational with them ahead of time, they have 3 other people that they have trust relationships with that are the only other 3 people that are going to be reaching out to them.
That's exactly right.
And so you have more knowledgeable and competition that's actually value competition if you're not in front of your client in the first place.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we talk about this a lot, and I feel like sometimes I sound like I'm on a soapbox, but what we all experienced through the COVID run, where it was just in the extended period of time where people, the industry's challenge was we don't have enough bandwidth and capacity to really get to all the volume that right. is coming through. It led to bad habits with a lot of originators not understanding, and this goes true with real estate agents as well. You are making the sale by delivering the value long before the client is actually in a point where they're ready to purchase. And so what you're doing in that database and the relationships and the way you're interacting with them 6, 12, 18, 24 months, years in advance is how you reach the point where you're in a value delivered state that they are your client. As a result of what was kind of overflow of business, there's a lot of people who they're frustrated, like, well, I'm getting shopped. Well, you haven't talked to that client in 3 years. And so they reached out to you because they are looking at it, but all you've done is send them automated communications through your CRM, but you haven't really engaged with them. You don't have the same rapport that you should have with them. So we are really emphasizing bringing it back to how are you delivering value to them with zero expectation of them being an active, borrower at this moment in time or referring you business. And I think a lot of bad habits were built because the challenge was I have more loans than I know what to do with for a lot of people. And so they lost track of that. And then they kind of got into those habits. So, you're touching on it, and I think it's really important because it's also the most fulfilling part. And you just said it a second ago. If you ask any loan officer who's been in this business a long time, any real estate agent, any time, when you help somebody that you've built a relationship with finally close on a home and move their family in, or a young couple starting out their life, there is no greater reward and personal satisfaction that you get than that moment.
See, a lot of people chase happiness and they associate happiness with money. And so, they start looking at their commission and all that sort of nonsense. The reality is the joy in this business comes from that fulfillment, the fulfillment of helping to change a family's life. And so if you take care of your clients and serve them well, servitude's your word, if you serve them well, then your income takes care of itself.
That's exactly right.
And more important, your business over time, it's like a grist mill, because as you slowly turn the wheel by yourself, there's not a lot of traction. But as you begin to develop those relationships, they become your raving fans. And those raving fans tell their friends, neighbors, and family. And that's what spreads your reputation. And, your reputation is what people think of you before they first meet you and before you walk into the room. That's why social media is so important. And that's why, I'm a student of it. And one of the reasons I study what Julie does, because, not only is this woman a connector, but she also has a wonderful way of presenting herself authentic, genuine. This is me. And I'm cool with who I am. And if you connect, that's a wonderful thing. And that authenticity is the difference between being successful in social media, in the attraction society that we're in today, but it's also on a one-on-one personal level, the difference between whether you're going to actually have conversations that lead to commitment, that lead to conversion, that lead to contracts. And you have to have that first step, that conversation. And that's the value of being a mortgage loan advisor. There's a lot of loan officers, but I would say that less than 20% of our industry are true mortgage advisors.
Very true.
They show up and throw up. Here's right. My products, here's this, here's that. Well, wait a minute, I haven't even told you what my need is yet.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the reasons why the smock's fun. Okay, I went to a retreat for other top producers in the country with Cindy Ertman and the Mortgage Mastermind Group, the Defining Difference. You go back to Texas once in a while. I like to go to Manhattan Beach and suffer for the industry. So I went down there for a meeting. And when I came back, my team had ordered this smock for me as the mortgage professor, because they say I always educate and entertain. So I'm an edutainer.
Edutainer.
Yeah. And so we did a couple of videos having fun with it, and then it turned out that people are commenting about me being the mortgage doctor. So
that's nice.
So that's what stuck. But when you think about it, we cannot prescribe the right financial plan for a client until we've taken a financial physical of their overall financial condition.
That's exactly right.
So you have to have an attitude of curiosity. You have to actually ask your clients what their long-term and short-term goals are in order to properly position them with the right tools.
Well, what's amazing is, you're talking about you have to ask them this and you have to ask them that. What I find today, the most troublesome is that today, a lot of the origination is done online. Here's my link. Go and fill this out, and then I'll give you a call. And they're missing what you and I learned by sitting down with them at their kitchen table and filling out all the paperwork and doing all the disclosures right there and talking to them about their numbers. All of those kind of things, I think a lot of the loan officers are missing today. And that's when as we get through today, we'll talk a little bit about AI and some of the things that people are talking about, and really not engaging with the client, which is for you, myself, Phil was talking about it. That was some of the best parts of this job.
Yeah.
Before I moved more into management and got away from the loan side of things, one of my favorite things was, every weekend, you'd almost every weekend have people moving into their houses. They closed on Friday, and so they're going to be moving. I would get in my truck. I drove a truck at that time.
You had sold your horse.
It sold my horse, got in the truck, and I would drive around. If my kid had a baseball game, whatever, we would go by these houses and catch them moving in and go in and, wow, this is great. Are you excited? Be there for 10, 15 minutes. Maybe bring donuts if it was early, that kind of stuff. But I just put my blue jeans on and a T-shirt and go out and see everybody. And I had more great relationships because of that than I'm afraid that loan officers miss today by, here's my link, check this out, fill all this out, do everything online. They don't get that interaction.
If the client can go online and fill out the application, and if they can upload all their documents, and if the AI auto sorter sorts it all and delivers it to the underwriter, that loan has now become commoditized, and the client has made their selection, essentially. What value have you provided? What service have you provided? And why would you be memorable for them to ever want to do business with you again?
Why would you have expectations to ever get that loan back?
Well, and this is a good point where I think what you guys are touching on is the evolution of it. I think that the average client wants the freedom and the convenience of being able to potentially do that at 11:30 at night in bed while they are winding down, instead of having to be on a phone and talk through it. What I think's missing and is all the really top-notch professionals that have evolved with this technology. They replace what you're describing as far as taking down the basic information, social security numbers, and turn that into a consultation meeting. So now I have all your information, but I'm still going to meet with you, and now we're going to go through, I have it all, which actually gives me a chance to preview it, think ahead, have very intelligent, thoughtful questions related to the information you've uploaded in your application, and I do a consultation with you, and we talk about the things that aren't in your application, your life plans, things that might be coming up. Possibly your grandkids are going off to college, or your kids are looking to get, your son's looking to get married, or your daughter, or whatever. But they do a consultation following that app. And so what I think is still very much alive for the top is they don't allow that to not exist. They just do it in a different format. And then there are people who I think are still trying to do what you're describing, but where they struggle is, okay, now I spent 45 minutes collecting all this information, and then I'm going to go ask all these questions. And so now it's an hour and a half or 2 hours versus 45 minutes from an efficiency perspective. But these are really detailed, thoughtful consultation questions. And I think you can do both. But what I think laziness has brought in is they did the app, and then I never do the consultation with you.
Absolutely.
I never follow up and do that
the
consultation.
Difference between that top 5% and the bottom 95%.
And I think you've really nailed the transition, because now the conversation isn't always on the front end at the point of taking application, but the conversation happens once they've initiated the process. But you still have to have the consultative conversation.
Exactly right.
And the purpose of the conversation, it can't be, hey, I'm going to pre-qual you to put out so you can go buy a house. The premise and the foundation has to be, let's have a real financial conversation about what your financial life goals and objectives are, and frame it in a fashion to where they see that you're providing value of your knowledge in doing that process.
Exactly.
You know, the biggest thing that I've discovered that with loan officers, when they get a referral from a realtor, the realtor a lot of times sabotages us before the referral gets here. Because what do they say? They say, hey, you got to go to Phil and get pre-qualified so I can write your offer. Well, now they're coming knowing that Phil's going to judge them, right? As opposed to help them.
Yeah.
Because that's a horrible framework. So I would much rather my realtors, and I try diligently to educate them on the warm handoff, that the warm handoff is, hey, I'm going to introduce you to Mike. His financial knowledge is of great value to you. He wants to have a conversation with you to understand what your objectives are, and he'll be able to give you a range of price you can afford and possibly share with you some ideas of how to finance the property with proper leverage to the best benefit of your family. Okay, if I can teach them that script and get them to introduce me in that fashion, now I am having that consultative conversation. And if it's a first-time home buyer, I'm not even starting that conversation without basically asking a couple questions, especially if it's a first-time home buyer. Julie, you were referred to me by our mutual friend Aaron Rawls. I would love to know, since this is going to be your first home, what would it mean to you to buy your first home? And then I shut up and let them tell me what it would mean to them to buy the home. Because now I'm establishing the emotional IQ of a connection, because they now know that I care. Julie would know at that point that I care about her being successful to get into that home, as opposed to, let's talk about DAPs and what's a DAP? Well, it's a deposit assistance program. Let's talk about FHA versus conventional. They don't know or care what instrument it is. They want to know how it works and how it's going to benefit them to buy the house.
Right. Well, and you're right. The other sabotaging is the idea of setting the stage and saying, like, here I'm going to give you 3 lenders and go get the one with the best rate, and setting the stage that the only thing that they should be evaluating is who quotes the lowest rate, with zero context. And I've seen that for years with agents, where they don't realize you are taking someone who doesn't have all this information, and you're effectively telling them that the one variable that they need to be looking at is rate, with zero context of their situation, and you're setting them up for failure to prioritize the thing that is not the most important, because they don't have the information yet.
And for the realtors that are listening to this, I just want to tell you, you're sabotaging your own paycheck when you hand out 3 lenders, because what you're doing is you're giving them choices that lead to confusion without context, just like Phil said, when you should be giving them a trusted advisor that's part of your team that's going to add to clarity.
Yep.
And if your broker won't allow you to do that, then you need a different broker, because there is no regulatory requirement within the California Association of Realtors or the Department of Real Estate that says you have to hand out 3 referrals and treat your mortgage partner as a vendor. Yep. We are not a vendor. We're not a mover. We're not a painter. We're not a termite inspector. We are part of the process of successfully helping your client get into a home. And
well, they project so much onto the client of their own things,
insecurities.
Their insecurities, and a lot of it is around their rate. And when they project that, then automatically those consumers take on those characteristics. So if I said to anybody I have influence over, if I said, no, this is my opinion, this is what you should be looking for, they're going to be looking for those things. So the moment that they say something like, I'm going to give you 3, figure out which one, gives you the best deal or the best interest rate, they've just projected that that's the most important thing, not someone that's going to educate, someone that's going to help them long term, someone that's going to help them position themselves for, building wealth over a long period of time through real estate. And it's always been a problem.
Absolutely.
Always been a problem. Instead of being partners, a lot of times it winds up being an adversarial, situation.
And it has to be a local person, like one of the great
yeah.
loan officers you have here at Big Valley, or one of my people that are on my team, because the biggest problem that they face as a realtor is the lack of confidence you just mentioned. And so I've got this approval from Spaceship Mortgage.
Yeah.
Well, that's terrific. That kid back in Detroit, Michigan, has no idea what the fair plan is. They have no idea what the HOA fees are. They have no idea that if you go up Highway 65, that the west side of Highway 65, at the same payment, you can buy $100,000 less house than the east side of Highway 65 because it's different HOAs. They have no knowledge of who Henry Mello or Mr. Roos were. And by gosh, Buzz, maybe that's where we met. We were probably at the hearing.
Probably was. I know Mr. Roos, but you're exactly right. And so that's one of the hardest things to really convey. But you notice it with the great teams. You notice it. You see the difference. And you're shaking your head because I know you know teams that operate that way, and they're very, very functional. There's not dysfunctional.
Correct. The top 1%ers have their team in place. It's dialed. That is so true.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it, just they don't know and they're confused already. So to be with somebody that's confident, knows what they're doing, has a team in place, that's what they're looking for. And so that's a great call out. I'm going to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
While you're all talking, I'm thinking, let's talk about like scarcity and abundance mindset. So I got to commend you two for having a lender who's a competitor on your show, which is amazing. And I kind of
wait a minute, he's a lender.
Sorry, Buzz.
Damn it!
I wanted to get him on the show before you figured that out. But it's so refreshing, and I'm kind of doing it. I lead a women in title group, and it's interesting to see like my competitors will come little by little. It's been hard. It was first all placer title, and then we had Fidelity come, but it's so refreshing to be with people that have an abundance mindset, that are able to just collaborate with professionals and not feel insecure about losing business, because we all know how much business is out there. And if we all, they say you become the top 5 you hang around. Well, I want to hang around the best of the best, right? Because then that drives me to be better, stronger, more efficient. And so I just commend you for having Mike. And Mike, you're amazing, and you've been
it is so important. The thought of you are the sum total of the 5 people that you spend the most time with and that you collaborate with and that type of stuff. We've had some really great guests on the show. Jason Maida doesn't work for Big Valley Mortgage, works for another American Pacific branch, his own branch, but just learning from that guy all the things that he does. We've had other guests that are mortgage professionals, and Mike, and I want to hear a little bit about your book a little, but Mike has been in the business much longer than me.
What's a decade? What's a decade between friends?
I would like everybody to understand that, yes, I've been in the business for 40 years, 50 years. But you've had so much success. And if people aren't, if I'm a loan officer and I'm not paying attention to what he's doing and saying, and look at how he's built his life and his career, if I'm not looking at that, I am missing out on some of the best lessons in life. If I'm not picking Jason Maida's brain, because neither Mike nor Jason or any of the other people, and we've got some great guys. We had a meeting yesterday, and Rodney was Rodney Anderson, one of our top producers.
It's great.
Brent Peterson, both of them were on that call. And if you're not on those calls and you're not asking, whether it's Brent or Rodney or Mike or Jason, if you're not asking them, what do you think about this? How would you handle this? What is it that you're doing? If you're not asking those questions, I don't even know why you're even in this industry. or why you're in the field that you're in, because you're not interested in being the best. Is that
100%.
Yeah.
So accurate. And then I'm also going to commend you because you have really jumped into the social media thing, no matter, like, we're mature, we'll say we're mature, but we have kind of embraced it and pivoted that direction. And I was at a meeting yesterday at PCAR with Krista Mashore, I think her name is, but she is a top 1%er in the country. And she really talked about AI, social media, and the power that it's going to have in the next 3 years. And you really, I know I've told you this a million times, you really have to be on video because AI is pulling from video content. So if you're not on it, it has nowhere to pull somebody else. So that's kind of the gist of that. I don't know how I segued into that, but I just wanted to commend you on that.
Thank you. That's a great segue. And this is a great avenue for social media, the podcast vehicle, because you're providing information through your conversations. And by the way, that podcast with him was great. With was it Jason?
Jason Maida.
Jason Maida?
Yeah, Jason. I enjoyed that one because I've been watching your podcast because there's value in them. Okay, people are attracted either to entertainment. Think Instagram, TikTok. I can't tick my talk, but Michelle Kincaid, who is part of my team and also owns Kincaid Insurance Services, but she's one of my two team members of Team Integrity that share in the revenue of the loans I do. That woman has done an amazing job of saying, will you try this? Will you try that? I mean, she's got me laying in the backseat of my car, kicking my feet on the phone like I'm talking to somebody because she saw it in a car ad in Kansas. And next thing you know, people observe it. We picked up 100 followers that week.
Yeah, she's amazing. We've had her on the show a few times.
She's great. Yes.
Now, think about just being on the show with both her and Julie.
Yeah, well, you're definitely the thorn between two roses then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is a good place to be. But, us old guys, we have to really...
I'm not old, I'm seasoned.
You're seasoned.
Mm-hmm.
Us seasoned professionals, it's at first it's uncomfortable. And I think it's uncomfortable for everybody, but
it's no different than what we used to do. I mean, we always used to go to the SAR or the PCAR meeting. We always used to walk in and do the office meetings. It's the same exact thing.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of get over yourself. You sound like what you sound like. You look like what you look like. And the reality is that if you have a desire to connect with people, then it's gonna transmit. You're gonna find your tribe.
Yep.
Okay, we're not all going to be attracted to the same values, the same sports, the same whatever. And I start every day with an attitude of gratitude, and I love the life that I've built for my family and for myself. And I've done that through serving others, and that's what the book was about. Really quick, this book was a bestseller in 2024. Jack Canfield is on the cover. He is the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series.
Right.
So needless to say, it was going to do well when it got released. It was nothing to do about me. But I had the opportunity to meet Patty Aubrey, the president of Jack Canfield Enterprises, and I told her my mortgage story about being a kid that my mom and dad got divorced when I was 8 years old, and we bumped around, and I didn't have a home until I was about 15, with my mom validating herself with different relationships until my stepdad, married her, taking on 4 kids that weren't his because she was pregnant with his kid, and
wow,
and that difference of actually having a home, during junior high and high meant so much to me. And, there are things in your life that are either a lighthouse or a foghorn that happen when you're young that send you on whatever trajectory you're on. When I answered that ad this big coming out of UCLA, I didn't know why it resonated with me. It took me years to figure that out. Mm-hmm. When I read Rene Rodriguez, and I'm an avid reader, I read about 2 books a month, but his Amplify Your Influence talks about how that childhood event can change the trajectory of your life. I am so grateful that this was the trajectory that I'm on. Ben Newman is my personal coach. We all have professional coaches and personal coaches, and I know you guys have coaches because you are professionals. I know Julie has a coach. we have coaches because we do work with purpose. And so in my personal life, I want to be the best husband I can be, the best dad I can be. I want to be in community relationships. I want to serve in my church. In my professional life, I want to be the best value that I can be, and I want to live to a standard, not to feelings. Do I feel like calling the realtors every day? Do I feel like calling back a cold lead when it's handed to me? Sometimes feelings don't drive. You can't stay motivated. Motivation starts with a big hump, and it's like a basketball. You slam on the floor, and it slowly dribbles out. But standards are conditions that you preset for yourself that you're going to do that are unnegotiable, and you do them every day. It starts with fitness in the morning and getting out and working out. It starts with, reading something of inspiration every morning and doing it every morning. You used the description on the Miracle Morning, and you had the anachronism for it. And that had an impact on that podcast. I went out and bought the darn book and read it because that was one I hadn't read yet. Okay?
Great book.
But then the third is avenue of service.
Yeah.
If you want to have a fulfilling life, serve somebody else daily. And if you can't think of what to do, just smile at them. Make their day just a little bit and greet them.
Look at you smiling.
I'm smiling at you, Bess.
I mean,
Well, what you're
I'm
just
sorry,
saying
I
too.
just got on a soapbox.
No,
there,
it's
but-
great.
No,
It's
I
great.
love it because
Yeah.
the truth is that when you discipline is what really ultimately outweighs the motivation, because motivation is fleeting and life gets in the way and life is distracting, and the more that you bring into your life, the more distractions that you have, right? Marriage, kids, friendships, work, whatever. But service and having something bigger than yourself that you're motivated to take care of is a great way to keep you on track, right? Because our own individual wants evolve, right? As we age, as we gain wisdom, as we go through our own ups and downs of how we feel. But when you are very clear on a purpose to serve other people, it's like a North Star that keeps you
Yes.
going in the direction. And, but obviously when you have, for all of us, you have kids, they are kind of, they become a North Star for things that you do in your life. But professionally, if your only goal is to serve yourself, inevitably you find very few people who sustain success with that being their purpose. But when the purpose is to serve other people, that's where the beauty and the magic comes in.
Success is that fulfilling life. And so I have written a book that is in production right now. It's with the editors, and we're finishing it up. And we don't have a full title for it yet, but basically, and Phil, you'll appreciate this having been a picture, I start with the premise that the furthest distance is the 6 inches between your ears. And I used to tell that to a catcher to go out and tell a pitcher when they were, getting a little wild and losing control and getting into the head games when they're on the mound. But the reality is we all do everything successful. I shouldn't say we all. Successful people all do everything twice. We do it first in our head, and then once we've thought the idea, then we implement. And the implementation is why 95% and 100 people go through life basically marking time instead of truly living. To me, living is always learning, always being willing to fail, because then you learned one more way that you probably shouldn't do something, or how you could do it a little bit better. And so just think if everybody could be taught the habit that instead of thinking about all the things that could go wrong when you think, gee, I want to start this business or I want to do that, if you actually filled out the other side of the ledger, and how fantastic would my life be if everything turned out well, okay? And then what would it take to do that? Well, the first thing I need to do is decide to start, take that one step forward.
And the problem with most people is that they see all the obstacles instead of all the possibilities.
Exactly.
They see, they think of the worst case that could happen, and you see that when we talk about worry, and what worry is.
Worry is a misuse of a good imagination.
There you go.
Prayer is a conversation with a purpose.
Yes.
If you want to get out of your head, get into your heart and have a conversation with your soul.
Yeah, and that's so true, because people, like I said, their first thought is all of the worst case. It's like saying, "Oh, is this cancer? You know, am I going to die?
Is that glass half full or is it half empty?"
Exactly. And
it doesn't matter. Go get a bottle and refill it.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that's why some of the biggest obstacles are, like you said, between your ears, because you're looking at worst case scenarios, and you know, when you sit down with someone and you say, you know, for all of those things to have happened, how bad things would have to get, you know, so why are you worried about all of these terrible things? Let's look at all the great things that could happen along the way, even if you fail.
Well, the thing, and you just using the baseball analogy in alignment with this too, one of the things I used to love about pitching, that as I, my career ended and I look back, you have everything that you've learned from the previous pitches and everything that you think about with what can happen. But the only thing that matters in that moment is that pitch and executing that pitch at that time. And what's happened in the past has absolutely no bearing on whether or not you execute that. And worrying about the next 10 pitches is not going to help you execute this. And life, it's the same thing, right? Whatever you're in, you need to worry about executing that thing in that moment. Where I think our industry, and you talk mortgage and housing and finances, is there is this mixture of messages that I think people struggle with the balance of, which is you're supposed to plan ahead. You're supposed to plan for the future. You're supposed to be thinking about all these things that could go wrong and have a cushion for it, have a strategy for it. And then you get people worrying about the stuff in the future. And then you've got people who pay no attention to it, and they need to have a both. But finding that balance of be here in the present, here and now, do the very best that you can to execute whatever that is, while still understanding the big picture of where you're going. I think people get really stuck and confused by the flood of information about how to properly balance the two. And you have all types of personalities that either are very good at that or really struggle with that. Like the over planners, and I admire some of these people that they're like, they just go and they do, and whatever they do, there is zero thought behind it, and they just live with the results. But our industry is, you have to help people find a balance of both, where they're planning ahead and dealing with the present. And I think that's a big value add for real estate and mortgage professionals to help people with.
Well, and you know all the personality types. I mean, there's the free spirit that has no idea where they're going, and it doesn't matter because they have no idea where they are. I mean, in order to live your life with intention, you have to have some purpose. Idea of purpose and direction for your life, right? And then you get on the other end of the spectrum, and you've got the analytics who have analysis paralysis and can't make a decision. And I think you referenced it on one podcast that engineer is the worst client to have, right? That overanalyzes everything. Yeah, and that's a tough client to deal with, because I'm not an analytic, but I do know how to work with forward with intention, as do both of you. So it's finding the way to say, okay, let's look at what your intention is and take this thing in the future. But in terms of how I live my own life, okay, what steps can I make? If today is my last day, if this is the last day I get to take a breath on this earth, what can I do with intention that's going to have people connected with the legacy that I desire that people will remember me by? Just like your reputation is what people think of you before you walk in the room. Mm-hmm. If you live your life with the intention of, what do I really want to do in this life that's meaningful? And I'm going to do at least one thing today with intention to stack another brick on that legacy. Because your legacy is built by living. The legacy isn't the aftermath of after you're gone. It's what you're doing today.
Yep.
That's exactly right. Yeah, the analogy that I've had in my head for years about the way I operate is I am a big goal setter, and so I always say I like to look at the top of the mountain. That's the inspiration. That's the where do I want to go, the big achievement, and that's my constant reminder. But then go through the exercise of then looking back down at my feet and going, all right, what's the first step, second step I have to take today, and knowing I have this thing, I'm going there, but I've got to take each step along the way. And I think a lot of people benefit in our industry. That is the overwhelm that kicks in, right? It's like the owning the home is the top of the mountain, but then there's all these steps in between they have to take, or the gaining wealth and building wealth through home ownership and owning rentals is the top of the mountain, but you've got to do different things in between. And there's hurdles and roadblocks. And I think I'll bring this to you two specifically. Buying a home and getting into it is just the first step. There are so many things that owning a home, once you've owned it, that people who haven't don't think about. Expenses that come up, potential repairs, your HVAC, like we've talked about, goes down. What's that expense going to cost? Or dealing with issues where a root breaks into your sewer line, and now you've got. These are just things that's life. And a lot of times when people get into the thought of owning a home, and it's just what's the rate, what's the payment, they're not thinking about all the other things that come along with it and preparing for it. So, having seen it throughout the years, what's your advice to real estate and mortgage professionals to really help establish that you are helping that person anticipate and think about much more than just the idea of getting into the home?
I really think you have to care about them as a family or as people. And when I say family, I'm also referring to the single mom with the two kids that you help get into a home. And by the way, women are way smarter than men, because I know you look at the numbers as well. 7 out of 10 single home buyers are women, not guys.
Absolutely.
The guys don't get their act together and figure this out.
Over my career, that was definitely a pattern. Yeah. I had more single women as home buyers than ever single men. Of course, obviously families, husband, wives, but rarely was it a single man. It was a single woman. And
because of boomers becoming a bigger part of the home buying market as a percentage, and some of them first-time home buyers, we now have a new definition called SINKs, single income, no dependents, okay? And they tend to be female. They tend to be women who have been professionals in their 40s and 50s, and now they're done moving for purposes of their career, and they want to settle in a community where they have connection, because we are a relational being, and connectivity is what's important. So to come back to your question, Phil, and hopefully do a better job of answering it, I believe that you have to understand what's important to that client in terms of, do they have kids or plan to have kids, and how concerned are they of the types of schools they want to be at? What type of amenities are important to them? Are they bike riders? Do they want to be near a parkway to where they can get out and ride their bikes and do those kinds of activities? You have to show some genuine interest in what they value, and then make sure that in your conversation when you're financing that home, that they understand that doing that first loan is chapter 1.
Absolutely right.
And because it's chapter 1, when you get to the point where you do have kids, you may need life insurance. You're not going to like life insurance. Nobody does, but you might need it. So I have some financial planners with Northwest Mutual that I respect, and other companies, depending on who I'm talking to and who I think the best advisor fit might be. And I'm going to refer you to a professional that provides that, because that's not my lane. I'm going to stay in my lane. I am going to be your debt manager, but I want you to have an asset manager. I want you to have a professional tax preparer. I want you to have someone that's going to protect your kids.
Absolutely.
If, God forbid, there's an unexpected event. So knowing that as the debt manager, I'm going to be one of a team of financial advisors that's going to stay with them is how you build that relationship. And then when you're calling, it's not, oh, hey, just want to touch base. Well, we're not on the baseball field. I'm not touching bases here. Okay.
Well, and this is so important. One of the things that Phil and I have built is a program here at Big Valley Mortgage, and it's called Give Value, and it's worded that way specifically. We have a partner that has all sorts of give love, give respect, give
culture is the company, yeah.
But our Give Value program is built around the whole idea that I'm not here just to tell you about an FHA loan. I'm here as a holistic way to. Do you need a heating and air conditioning company to come help you? It's 100 degrees outside and your air conditioning just blew up. Well, we have a partner, Jaguar Heating and Air. You need a roof, which I'm sitting on my rental property up in El Dorado Hills that I'm going to have to put a roof on. Do you need plumbers? Do you need electricians? Do you need these types of things? We have people that we trust, and that all you need to do is look into our Give Value program, and you can tap into savings and to people that we really trust. And I wouldn't mind if you're having problems getting a hold of them. I'll reach out and give them a call for you.
I love that.
And that's what we want to do, is to bring even more value. Absolutely, the financial side of things, the insurance side of things with people, like Kincaid Insurance. And, she's someone that we've also utilized. And so these are the things that are important, I believe, in being more than just a loan officer, a trusted advisor, which kind of brings us back to to what we started talking about.
So a quick Michelle Kincaid story.
Yep.
Michelle and her at the time boyfriend, Jason Kincaid, came to see me, and we had a conversation about them buying their first home. And I helped them buy that home. Then I helped them buy some additional homes because they were buying some and doing some flips and doing some things because Jason had some knowledge of the industry and some relationships. He also had a partner back at that time that did some of them with him, Jeff Sipes, who's Blue Water Credit, another great family guy, and he and Natalie are terrific. And but I had a relationship with Michelle that went to the point that when Jason was sick and was at a point of passing, and they had a very big home in Folsom, we had to do some planning about what are you going to do, because you're not going to be able to sustain this house once he's gone. When he passed, I helped her to sell that home and to downsize into a home that she could afford with her kids. And then just before COVID came, because she was doing the insurance industry, but she saw the same impacts on independent insurance brokers that there are on our industry. And she said, do you think I could be a decent loan officer? And I said, I think you'd be a terrific loan officer, and I would like to personally mentor you. So would you consider we structure a deal where you can be a part of my team and you can learn this business, and I still want to give you the flexibility to run yours. Then COVID hit. She had to be a mama and an insurance agent. And it was after COVID, so about 4 years ago, that she actually came on board. Well, about the same time she came on board, my son-in-law, Sean Witten, was retiring from the Coast Guard after 23 years. And he's very detail-oriented, which I'm not. He's very process-oriented, which I'm not. And so he was a logical fit to say, hey, how about you come learn the operations side of this business and take some of these things off my plate. And again, I want you to become fully licensed. I want you to understand the business. So those two are fully licensed, and those are the two people on my team. So I have the initial conversation with the client, and then depending on the personality, I introduce them to Sean or Michelle to complete the process and complete the documentation and build the connection. Because in the longer term, the clients that I have over the years are eventually all going to become their clients.
Yeah.
And so
excellent process.
Transition is in process.
And that's a very, very important point for, I think, a lot of loan officers that have been in the business a long time and are thinking about how to scale back, is having that type of a plan to transfer the trust and build relationships in a handoff way. And I don't think it's thought about enough. Like what you described is a very thoughtful way, not only to preserve the relationships that you've built, but to transfer the trust and to serve the clients, beyond the point that you want to stay as involved.
It's a little hard for me to say I'm going to be your mortgage advisor for life when they look at my gray hair at this point, right? You got to introduce.
Wait, you don't have a lot of life left.
You got to introduce them to the next team. And officially, for the record, I'm only 74, so next year I'm starting the fourth quarter of my life. And when you talk about intention. I used to think it'd be cool to live to 100 until I went to Jack Canfield's 80th birthday party 2 years ago when we brought the book out. And Jack says, why are you limiting yourself? So now my new goal is 115 so I can be a teenager a second time.
There you go.
But that requires taking care of yourself every morning. And sometimes it's hard.
It's hard.
Well, that's
hilarious.
Julie, teeing up, you've worked with and been around him as someone who connects with so many people throughout the industry. And like you said, you talk a lot about really clearly seeing the difference between the top 1%. When you listen to Mike, talk about how he does the business and you hear conversations at various events, what sticks out to you that's missing that you notice that doesn't connect with with the way that Mike has done his business and how we see the business when you're out there? What do you feel like is this missing component in our industry right now that would be really important to point out when comparing someone who's been successful and done it for as long as Mike has to what you hear and see in the industry today?
And you and Buzz have. You guys have an incredible team, and you've done a tremendous job. You're clearly in the top 1%.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. We definitely try, but there are no doubt a lot of people who are in, I would say, transition right now, trying to figure out where they fit today.
100%. I think we're seeing a lot of that. But it comes down to 4 words that will change your life. And I think this goes with the 1% is I do it anyway. Those 4 words are so powerful when you have your system set up and you have your strategy set up and you execute, even when you don't feel like it. That is the difference in the 1% than everybody else. So I say the top 10%. Really, they have a clear vision of where they want to go. They usually will be very, like you talked about, you're learning every day. They're learning AI, they're learning social media. They might not be good at it, but they're learning it, and then they're putting it in their daily systems, and they're doing it anyway. Even though I hate myself on camera, I hate video, I hate what people are going to think about me. I don't want to get up because I'm so tired, I don't want to work out, but they do it anyway. That's the difference. It's pretty simple. So I think, it is scary out there because there is so much evolving so quickly, faster than any time. And I think I've been in this industry 30 years. Yeah. I've never seen it change so quickly as it's changing now. And so I think it's important that they really embrace the change and just implement a little bit every day. If they could do that, they'd find success, but they have to be the big word of the day, and was in that presentation yesterday, is consistency. If you're not consistent, it doesn't matter. Because there's people that are, and they're going to outshine you. They're going to be more successful. You have to be consistent. So that's what that would be my takeaway.
Okay.
Consistent and stretching. You mentioned comfort zone.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Buzz.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned comfort zone. The irony of comfort zone is most people that are in comfort zone aren't happy.
Yeah, they're not growing.
They're in the habit of complacency. It's actually a form of self-sabotage and laziness.
That's exactly
really
right.
is.
We run to comfort, and really, if you're looking for growth, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable and live in that.
Embrace the discomfort. Embrace the burn. make a change.
Yep.
That's right.
And I have to ask you, these 4 words, is that your own, or did you hear that somewhere else?
I've heard it, but it is
It's your
use it
mantra.
every
I've
day.
heard you say
Like
it
I do
before.
it anyway because I don't like doing a lot of the things that I do, but I do it anyway.
I really love that, and I think that you should write a book. And you should call it I Do It Anyway.
Okay, Buzz.
You've got an author sitting right there next to you. He will walk you through how to write a book.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a great. I think that's phenomenal.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I do think that's what's gotten me where I've gotten on the social media front for sure.
And I'm asking because if there was a book out there, I would buy that. And you're saying, no, I kind of made that up. That's your book right
Okay.
there. That's your title.
Okay. I do it anyway. Let's go.
Perfect. All right, we are running
Well,
up
we're
on our
running out
time
of
here,
time.
so
Yeah,
give us our mortgage update, my
Oh,
friend.
gosh. It's been 20 days of 20 trading days. Let's make sure we understand 20 trading days that this thing in Iran has been affecting us. 20 trading days ago today on a Friday, all of this was announced and we saw this, where our market just fell off. And we have actually been climbing out of it for the last 20 trading days. There's been a lot of announcements over the last 24 to 48 hours of, now instead of allowing Iran to control that strait, we're controlling it now, and we're in charge. And oil prices they haven't plummeted, but they're down to, yesterday they were at $91 a barrel. Today it's 81, or at least this morning. We've been in here for a while. So oil prices are coming back down. We've done a lot of things over there that everyone thought couldn't be done. Still a long way to go. But the markets are taking it as a good sign. And when we came in here, we had a continued improvement. Let's say, I'm not going to say rally. Hate to use that word. But we've seen a continued improvement. And so the big thing that I would say to a realtor today is we are ending the week with better pricing than what we started. And it's been that way for a while. This morning we broke out. We have these 4 little indexes that we look at. What's been happening over the last 25 days, called a moving average, the last 50, 100, 200 days. We kind of judge where the market's going. And of course, the nature of moving averages is that, they move along, and we've been stuck right in the middle, and we couldn't break through. And we've pretty convincingly, at least this morning, broken above all of the moving, averages, daily averages. And that's a good sign, because that creates a really good floor to continue us getting better interest rates. So I would say we're ending the week better, and a little bit of optimism, and people are coming back to the market. We erased all of those losses that we saw that 20 trading days ago. So that's where we are. And before we get out of here, I do want to ask the baseball pro one thing.
Fire away.
What are you going to ask Phil?
So, as an umpire, you worked your ways up through Little League and high school and into college, and that's some pretty heady stuff, even some pro stuff. What is your favorite baseball movie of all time? What if
good
you could
question.
sit down and watch a baseball movie, what would it be?
That would be tough. Probably Field of Dreams.
I love the Field of
Yeah.
Dreams.
Yeah, probably Field of Dreams. But
That's a good one.
But I'm a sucker for any baseball movies, including those dumb ones they made with the Cleveland Indians. With with
Major League,
yeah.
Major
League,
League.
Bull Durham.
and the funny thing about Major League is and I'm drawing a blank on the sportscaster's name. He's
Bob Uecker.
Bob Uecker.
Do you guys know that Bob Uecker's replacement is a kid that went to Jesuit High.
Yes, Jeff Levering. Jeff Levering.
Jeff Levering, Bruce Levering's kid. Yeah.
Jeff and I were high school teammates. We won it all together at Jesuit. Yeah, I know Jeff well. That is Euchre's replacement. Hard act to follow.
And by the way, his dad was a great high school baseball umpire for a long time.
Yes.
Bruce does a great job.
I loved Bob Euchre in that movie where the guy threw so wild and it hit the mascot over in the side of the field, and he said, "Oh, just a little outside."
Just a tad outside.
You gotta have a shout out to Levo on this here, man. Yeah, I reached out to him at some point about having him come on the Triple J Sports podcast and talk, since he's so involved day to day with the Brewers. And I what, it's funny, I really didn't until just now make that connection of the Euchre replacement piece that Jeff was doing. Very cool. I'm a big Bull Durham fan. And I just recently found out that Kevin Costner was actually supposed to be the catcher in the Major League movie for Tom Berenger, and he turned it down because he had just done Bull Durham, and he thought it wouldn't be a great career move to do back-to-back old catcher movies.
Fact.
Well, do you realize?
Just heard
Isn't that interesting?
How many
Just after all these years.
Interesting. I did not know that.
How many movies that Kevin Costner? How many baseball movies he's been in?
Yeah, he's done. He ended up doing Field of Dreams as the alternate to Major League because he wanted a different role than being
That was a good
catcher
call.
for that
That's
movie.
That's a good call right there.
Yeah,
My
which turned
favorite
out-
baseball
For the
movie,
love of the game.
Moneyball.
But
Moneyball's
What?
a great one too.
Moneyball.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
But Costner's there's a great example of a guy that works with intention and has a vision
Yes.
for how he wanted to be, how he presents himself.
Right.
Yep.
And
For
it's
Love of
very
the Game
and
is a
it's very
great one
authentic.
too. When
Yes.
he's pitching at the end of his career, the
Yes,
Tigers
that's
one.
a great one. All these
Perfect.
great.
The focus of not how many more pitches, but just that next pitch.
Yeah.
Well, I
was-
love the whole scene where he blocks out the noise and going like that. That for so relate to that, shooting free throws in front of 10 or 15,000 people. Like, you just hear this hum and there's nothing. You see one thing, or throwing a pitch, you see one thing. It's a very, very real life, kind of accurate portrayal of what it takes to focus, and it's a great way to apply things in life. Like, cut the noise out and focus on the thing you're doing.
Yep.
100%.
Do it to the best.
Well, Julie, did you have any social
I do.
media
I have a
tip?
quick one.
Go do it.
I have a quick one. So if we're going to start social media, you've never done it before, look at the top performing videos. So in the search bar, put top videos on mortgage, and the top videos are going to come up, and just take that content and make it your own and record it. That's it. That's your tip.
Is that TikTok or
Any platform.
Any
on
platform.
any
Okay, so you
platform.
can do it on Instagram.
Instagram, yep. Just search whatever you want to do a video on and take the top performer, copy that. I mean, now we're talking the hook, the middle, the end, everything, and make it your own. And you'll get good traction. That should be your first video.
Copycat.
Simple and
Copy.
easy.
That's my
Why
whole career.
recreate the
Copy
wheel?
genius. My whole career is based
Don't
on copying
recreate the
smart
wheel.
people like you.
Don't recreate it. Well,
Mike, it's been
Yes.
so wonderful having
Yes,
you here,
Mike,
buddy.
we loved having you on
Yes.
here.
Thank you
It's
so
been
much.
great,
Yeah.
great catching up.
Yeah.
we're going to have you back, and again, congratulations on the news and breaking here, and the transition with integrity and taking that leap, thank you for making it so Buzz has some camaraderie with the length of time in the industry. I
rarely
now I
meet
know
people
who
that have been longer than
I
me.
know who held the shotgun that protected the money on his ride across the country. So that's why he survived it.
Oh my goodness.
But love not only your perspective and the way that you approach the business and the way you share it, but love your motivation to help the next generation and be a mentor and inspire other people. It's not only inspiring for me, but I think something that we need more of it in this industry. So really grateful to have your time.
We cannot let this industry get commoditized, and we can't let it resort to the lowest interest rate, because that's a race to the bottom, and that doesn't serve the clients.
It doesn't serve the clients. That's exactly
Or
right.
anybody.
Or anybody.
The people, you just said it. As much as they might think so, that actually would do such a great disservice to the customers in ways that
100%.
have cascading
And
effects.
before you get out of here, I I want you to sign my book.
It's already signed.
Oh,
I actually wrote you a personal note, and Phil's got a personal note in his as well.
That's awesome.
Based
'cause
You
I'm
should
gonna-
see what
I'm gonna
your
read
nickname
this
is in there,
weekend.
and it's not complimentary. It is not complimentary.
Right.
I'm going to
no.
read it this weekend as I take care of my girl.
I actually referred to your acts of servitude, since that's the
Well-
only place I've ever known that word is in your bio.
Thank you. Thank you so
And
much.
I've heard you say it on these podcasts, and
Yep.
so I know it's a word that's meaningful to you.
It's very meaningful, and someday I'll tell you the story of that event that I went to, and with some really wonderful people, and that was the exercise. Find your one word. So, guys,
Thank you all so much for being here today. Thanks again, Mike, Julie,
Pleasure.
Mr. Howard. Bring those white shoes back next week, and I'll be a little more on point. That's been another episode of the Blitz Break. Thank you for tuning in here on a Friday. As always, check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud for your audio versions, and all the social media channels. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we will see you next week.